Nearly half of Americans recently polled by the Freedom Forum Institute could not identify a single one of the rights of our First Amendment. I find that hard to believe, but okay. Campus Reform went to Columbia University in New York to see how well students at the esteemed college know our Constitution and specifically First Amendment.
Dude, you took comp law. You should be able to do this.
So freedom of speech,
yeah.
Freedom of the press.
Yep.
You're the constitutional lawyer here, man. You got this. Come on.
You gotta do it. Yeah, dude, he's sitting in class in law school right now also. So, dude, no pressure.
Come on. All right, Campus Reform's Cabot Phillips joins us now to talk about his findings. Half of Americans can't name one. Now, getting all five, I would say, that's huge, but not even one.
I don't think you can expect the average American to get all five. That's not reasonable necessarily. Know all the intricacies.
I had to look up one.
But we're going to quiz you on all five next.
I knew four, but I had to look up one.
And again, you can't expect every person to know all the intricacies, but when it does become a trend, it should become more concerning, especially in Ivy League school, the future of our country. And I think that when people ask, how has our society gotten to a place where there's no free speech protected, there's no dialogue, where people are so willing to shut down speech? I think you can look at something like this. If people are unaware of what their First Amendment rights are, what their free speech rights are, they're more willing to go along with shutting down the rights of others, and they're more willing to openly give up their own rights. We have another clip here for when I ask people, how far should the First Amendment go? What speech should be allowed? What speech should not be allowed? You're not going to be surprised with what they say.
Here it is.
I think the line starts drawing when you get offensive trying to in people's like culture.
I don't think that it's fair for people to use the First Amendment as kind of like, you know, an excuse to say whatever they want. I don't have the right to hurt people, so.
You do, though.
Yeah, I guess. This is all very tricky.
This makes me want to laugh, though, because I'm like, okay, I always think about people when we start having these conversations. I remind them of Westboro Baptist Church, which has some of the most inflammatory things in the world to say. They won their case 8-1 at the Supreme Court.
And that's important to remind people that the First Amendment is not meant to protect speech that everyone is all kumbaya around.
No.
It's meant to protect speech that is controversial. And we see at Campus Reform how repeatedly universities are teaching people to give up their freedoms in pursuit of feelings. And that is a noble cause at its heart and its root. But when you begin to apply it to practice, people are taught now that your speech only goes so far as it does not make others uncomfortable. And we should be teaching students to protect other people's speech, being willing to go out on a limb and actually have those tough conversations, those debates. And again, I think it starts in the classroom, beginning to once again make civics, government courses mandatory and teach people and make them realize how important these rights are so they're not so willing to give them up.
I mean, these are college-age students. And did you find any who felt were thoroughly versed on this, or did they really think that if you're hurting someone's feelings, that's where the line ends?
The most common response was, yeah, free speech is still good, it's relevant today, I guess. But then when put into practice, I said, okay, so how far should I be able to go to hurt your feelings? And they said, well, it's all about your intent. That was the most common response. It's about your intent. If your intent is to make me uncomfortable or to disrespect who I am as a person, that's too far. And my only response was, who gets to decide how far is too far? And they said, well, a few students said universities should get to decide. And if universities are deciding, and then we've all seen the track record of schools deciding what speech should be allowed and what shouldn't. And a few people said the government. We should let the government decide how far. And I think it's important for us to remind people, individuals should be able to decide what speech they want to use. Realize, yeah, speech has ramifications. There are consequences for what you say.
Fire in a crowded theater. I mean, there are limits. But again, Westboro Baptist 8-1 at the Supreme Court. Some of the most offensive speech to nearly every person in the world who would hear from them. Yeah. Okay. Cabot, we love your videos. Keep us up to date as you find out more. And hopefully this is a learning experience for all of us.
And stay tuned. Shannon's going to give all 5 rights from the First Amendment right after the show. Yeah.
I knew 4. We're going to have 5. All right. Thanks, Cabot. Stay with us. Our Midnight Hero steps in to help a woman in need.